anyway, the reason I just kept this front slide is because it gives you an idea of the participants in this whole operation. Okay, you've got Lake Como, of course, Monmouth University, which I just mentioned. It's really to do with all the computer mapping and things like that. Okay, Health for Youth is a nonprofit based in Staten Island, and they sponsor kids to come down to Candide's garden and give them a tour and show them that, you know, the peppers don't grow in cellophane and stuff like that, you know. I'll go on. That'll come out a little bit more, but they're a very important factor in what we're doing. That all sorts of things accrue to us from Health for Youth. There's the Williamsburg High School for Architecture and Design. It's an unusual high school because it has an architecture and design program. And 2 years ago, whatever it was, Heather, who runs Health for Youth, was talking with them and talking about Lake Como, and the school got very excited about Lake Como, and so we crafted this thing of where the school would adopt the town on a multi-year basis and provide whatever architectural and design services we need. Now, you know how expensive architects are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so that is going on, and for as long as we're doing our environmental vision. So and there's where everybody is. So, and you know about Lake Como already. So, and then this was Jeff Foad is his name, and
Okay.
and it really, he's a super teacher. He's the one that got that all that stuff out of those kids. You know, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's basically the issues. All right, and this has been around for 4 or 5 years now, and the thing is, Mayor Wilton hit it right on the head when he said that Lake Como was a shore town with all the problems and none of the advantages. We can't beach badges. We can't, you know what I mean?
Right.
We don't have, you know what I mean? So we don't have the money. So anything we do has to, you know, has to be highly economical, and that's built in. And so the first thing is that we got 2 raceways.
Yeah.
From the parkway to the beach. Okay. And I talked to a lot of people, and there's a lot of residents who really would like to see the speeding cut down, you know, and so on. The second thing is, of course, we're bracketed by 2 entertainment areas, you know, and then so that gives rise to like a raucous promenade in between. And so here's the problem. Where's the sense of place? You know, hometown village. We got a lot of nice people. There are pockets of socialization and stuff like that. But where's the center? What's the idea of this town? But then there's another thing, that there's a lot of young people going to these 2 party zones, and as I say, there's like gold in them dar hills. You know, there's those kids, after they're going to do what they're going to do, they will, you know, they'll look for a place to settle down, and if it's a nice place, they'll come here. So we're looking ahead to the future. We have an aging population, and this is a way of moving the town to the future. So just the basic idea is for us to move from a barely noticed pass-through to a distinctive destination. Okay. Now, how do we do that? And Dr. Weber's hit on some of these. The idea is to create a village or a hometown type atmosphere with an environmental theme. Environmental is the thing of the moment, and it's also dead cheap to do. Okay? We're talking about green stuff, a lot of green stuff. So the first thing we already had something in place with Candide's Garden. We opened in 2017. We've had over, I don't know, somewhere between 200 and 300 visitors. We brought in about $2,000 into the town already, and there's a fair amount of knowledge about Candide's Garden getting around. So that's now a destination. okay? And people are learning about Lake Como through Candide's Garden. So then the next thing is to have 5 more environmental destinations in 5 years, okay? And the first one is the Lakefront Fun and Wildlife Park. The idea being it's in the best tradition of our national parks, recreation and nature, fun and wildlife. So it's that kind of a park. Second is an arboretum for Main Street, not street trees, but an arboretum, which is a destination where people can learn something from the trees. And then create a link between the two called the Pathway to the Lake. So people are at Main Street, they can get to the lake and back and so on. And oh, by the way, civilize 18th Avenue and beautify Parkway. So, and then use that as a model for going on to other streets. Okay, this is be the tester. And we've already just about completed one destination, the stormwater management project at the Borough Hall. I don't know if you've seen the rain garden and the bicycle rack, which have pervious surfaces, and Brendan cut slots through the thing so the water goes into those areas and not down the driveway and stuff like that. And then there's the Patchwork for Wildlife, and that is basically creating wildlife and pollinator habitat 1 yard at a time, purely on private property, but just homeowners doing something, because you can't create a park in Lake Como. You have to create your habitat in private yards. I'll go through these in a minute. Okay, so that's basically the vision and the 5 destinations plus Candide's Garden that we're working on. And so starting with Candide's Garden, I don't know if you've heard of David Macaulay, who's an author. He actually was one of my students at Rhode Island School of Design when I taught structures to put my way through architecture school, and he was one of my students. And we met up again 50 years later, and he became famous, and so he got interested in Candide's Garden, and he says, "I'll do a drawing for you, John." So okay. It took over 6 months because he kept asking me, "What is this garden about? What is it about?" It took me 6 months to actually tease out all the different aspects of the garden. And just to summarize it, there's what he calls the painting of Candide's Garden with Voltaire lifting up the power line so you can actually see it. And his books are full of humor. And the first layer, this one here, is what people see. It's the landscape and garden aspect of it. It's like a variety of different teaching beds and so on, and different ecologies and so on, okay? The second one is the community context, because every yard butts up against a road somewhere, and you have to adjust what you do to what that road is and what the community is requirements. And so that's how Candide's Garden relates to the community. The third is how you cover ground. That's the impervious and pervious surface thing. And Candide's Garden has information on that. And then there's what we call sustainable operations, which are just don't use toxic stuff, and all sorts of things, and reinvest things back in the garden and so on. And then finally, last but not least, is the soil, just respecting the soil. So there's the 5, and that'll come back later. You'll see what I mean. So that's his drawing. And the Candide's Garden got an Environmental Achievement Award in 2018 from ANJAC. So we're getting somewhere with it, I think. So here's a plan for 18th Avenue along the top, okay? And and these are the different beds, and there's 15. There's now 16 different teaching areas, okay? Like the woodland border, and a curiosity bed out front for the kids, which has plants in it which are just have unusual flowers or they have really unusual names, like prairie smoke and shrubby five fingers and things like that. You see, so and then this is all the different aspects of it. There's close to 500 species now, different kinds of plants in it, and it's mostly natives and so on. And the interesting one is there's only diseased and seeded plant material leaves the site. Everything is reinvested back into the site. Just like in the woods, everything is reinvested. In Candide's garden, everything is reinvested. And here's the opening. I had master gardeners give a talk on native plants. We gave away prizes. We had master gardeners visiting. There's the signs for the different beds, and we had inventory for all the different beds, so people could say, I want to create a woodland area. This is what I can plant and stuff like that. And then here's where Health for Youth comes in. This is Heather Butts, and she brought a whole bunch of kids down from Staten Island. Peter, they had never been out of Staten Island before.
Oh,
these kids.
yeah.
They're underserved. We're talking about North Staten Island, not South Staten Island.
Mm-hmm.
If you get my drift. And so
yeah.
This is how she actually just was awarded the Brian Lehrer Prize for on PBS for community development, whatever it was. So she's making a lot of things happen for Lake Como. And this is my daughter. She came over. She was over from England, so she helped get the kids pop up. We gave them daffodil bulbs and strawberry plants to take home to Staten Island. And so Heather is developing mini Candide's gardens all over Staten Island. And I'm not sure how many there were. It may be 10, 15 or whatever it is. And it actually ended up being funded by the London Stock Exchange Group. I don't know. Don't ask me how it happened.
Yeah.
Through City Harvest. And then
they've come a long way.
So anyway, so that's Candide's garden. Okay. And as soon as things like are safe again, the kids will be coming down again. Here's a fun and wildlife park. Here's a shoreline that isn't exactly a living shoreline. And here's the kids' design. And the interesting thing about it, they made a wavy path. And so the wavy path, it creates areas rather than a straight run. It creates areas to plunk in different activities. So it's flexible. So different things, it can be an organic kind of development, you see. And here's the first, this is the first get together where there were 5 design teams. This was June a year ago. And the kids with the Lake Como t-shirts, which were donated by Peter Lair, by the way, the guy in the Tourism Commission. And we had a blue ribbon committee representing all different parts of the town, residents, planning board and stuff, that sort of stuff. And they selected the best one. The students then took that and plus the feedback and took it forward and then produced a final design last June, but that was on Zoom. Okay. And then Mayor Higgins and co got this open space grant to put it into action. So that's where we are. That's the first non-Candide's Garden destination. So it's on the way. Okay.
So what is the plan for that park to kind of cover?
Well, it has. I can send you just a minute. Let me turn this back. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. The grant, starting off with the grant, is to do the living shoreline and the pathway, the footpath, because that's the structural, the infrastructure parts. And then if there's any, as far as I know, if there's any money left over, they'll go on to onto other things. And if you like, I'll send you the list of areas that are going to be involved in the plan that the kids came up with. See, they're on the plan, and you can have that, but you can also have like a schedule of plant. Would you like me to send that to you?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So has that already been approved and all, the plan?
Yeah. And
I didn't realize it was that far along. Okay.
yeah, well, they did that, and then they went for the grant to build it, and that not everything will happen. There's
Sure.
some things that plans don't. Everything doesn't happen.
No.
But anyway, that's really where it is, and we met with Mayor Higgins a couple of weeks ago, and he said he's setting up a committee, and that I'd be a part of the committee, and then we'll go from there. And my role is to shepherd it through, to help it adhere to the principles of the garden. Don't put invasive plants on it, no concrete, that kind of thing. And secondly, to provide the horticulture advice. I'm a master gardener. And I've adopted Lake Como as I do all my work in Lake Como, nothing outside except for an occasional talk. Okay, so that's the Fun and Wildlife part. All right. Then the Arboretum. The idea is not to have a row of sycamores that when one dies, you have like it's pretty ugly, and you end a little bitty tree and a whole row of them.
Yeah.
Or if some bug comes along, it wipes out the whole thing. So you have diversity. You have the right geometry. They stay below the power line, so all small trees. Okay, and then they support wildlife and pollinators. And the idea is that you have something for people to see and learn from. Here's this view of spring. And it's very different from the typical street trees, making another destination. And the nice thing about it is trees don't cost a lot, and we can get, and Mayor Higgins was talking about before things got really complicated on Main Street, of having maybe the shop owners, proprietors, donate trees, sponsor a tree or something like that. So this is his second priority. First priority was the lakefront. His second priority is the Main Street Arboretum.
So are you thinking for example, on Main Street, to have many different ones, or like a row of like cherry blossoms or something like that, or like all the same or something like that, or
all different, just like you find in nature, all native.
Okay.
And all different. So if one, because they'll all be different sizes already. So if one goes, there's one that's a little smaller and it doesn't stick out. And the variety the diversity is great for wildlife and pollinators. Bees don't always eat, they need different kinds of plants. Different kind of bees need different kind of plants. So so that's just makes a real improvement in the environment, I think. And they help soak up rainwater, soak up carbon dioxide, and all the other good things that trees produce. But the thing is to keep them below the power lines, support wildlife and pollinators, and be a diverse collection of trees. And then we'll have little signs on them, say, this is this kind of tree, and it attracts these kind of, all the rest, so people can come and learn something and take it back. And I've had,
it'd be great if the businesses donated. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go for it. And well, there you go. And I've heard a couple of towns saying, one they told me that they were doing an arboretum, but they weren't doing it on Main Street. And somebody from North Jersey asked me, do you mind if we use that concept? So I said, no, why not? Because all boats float, right, in a rising tide. And so anyway, the little more about that is the pilot project in Candide's Garden. Candide's Garden is like a model for all these things that we're doing, you see. And there's Main Street, and somebody called that type of pruning, they called it alphabet pruning. And this she had most letters of the alphabet, and all the utilities people care about is keeping this 5-foot distance away from away from their power lines. They don't care anything. That's all they care about. but that's what you end up with because they're not arborists, you see. So Candy's garden, you might have seen some of the tough love I've been giving the trees down the side there. And this is a technique that's used in England and all over Europe called pollarding, where every 3 years you take the tree back down, let it grow, and it grows in the shape of a tree. And it's you know, and it looks good. And because it's Bradford pears, they are now invasive. And so if you knock it back every 3 years, it really reduces the fruiting. And so it's far less invasive. So Bradford pears, I just love to do Bradford pears, you know, because it, you know, they deserve it. So anyway, and then new trees is getting suitable parameters, and this is throughout the town. Whenever you have new trees, the first thing is they're native and all the rest, and the second thing is getting the right size. Okay, and I measured the distance on SUVs and stuff like that, how far apart they are, and it means that you really want them to have about 12 to 15 feet apart, and that helps discipline your parking. Because if you have them farther apart, then people will get sloppy, and a 3-space length will end up being a 2-space length. And you put in pavers, you know, rock, you know, flat, whatever you call them, where people get out of the doors. So then it helps to discipline the parking.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the idea that they stay below the power lines. And I have a list of street trees that Mark Fessler uses. Anybody cuts down a tree, he says, how about, come on, he can't make them do it, but he says, here's a great set of trees, and talk to John Gibbons, he'll help you plant them, stuff like that. Not plant them, but advise them on planting them, you know. So yeah, and these have all been tested at Candy's garden. So the next one, and this is the one which just got started just before Christmas. It surprised me. I didn't know that that Williamsburg was ready to do this, and they got a team together. And this is the pathway to the lake. You know, that L-shaped thing I showed you before to link the two.
Yep.
And here you can read it. You create an environmentally and socially beneficial pathway connecting Main Street and the Lakefront Fun and Wildlife Park. Okay, you join the two, and it lands down Parkway. It lands right at the middle of the park, so that you have two choices which way to go on the park. You see, so that works out as well. And they're doing the whole thing on online. They're doing the whole thing online. Here's Heather, but she's helping out with it. Here's Mr. Rodriguez, who is the teacher. Okay, he's another gem. We got 3 or 4 gems helping us out, and the kids. And then they're doing the whole thing on something called Miro, which is a board where they put all their stuff, you see, and use ideas and stuff. And it's quite a trick actually getting it done, doing a design project online. You know, usually you have a charrette where you get together and, you know, no, they can't do it. So the stages, and they're on finishing stage 1 and moving on to stage 2. The first is to clean it up, remediate it, that these problems like speeding, vehicle noise, litter, and unruly weekend behavior, just get that sorted out. And the second then is the good stuff, is to improve the quality of life with like planting and signage and different amenities and so on. So that's where that's going. And what we need to do, they're already working on it, is to bring the borough up in line with this. So, you know, and we were supposed to have a meeting with a mayor. I saw he and ex-mayor Wilton were up at the Joe's surf shack, and I said, well, what about that meeting we're going to have? He said, oh, definitely this week. So anyway, Dr. Weber and I will meet him. And if you want to be involved, I'll let you
yes,
know.
Please.
You know? Yeah, okay. Let me put that down.
You mean like, for example, just a small point, like You mean along that pathway, maybe some trash cans and things like that, right?
That as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know they're, after a weekend in the old days, at least before the pandemic, you walk down the street, you must see it. It's
Oh,
disgusting
totally.
sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
It's still there. Look, just I'll let you see behind the curtain a little bit, okay? There, there. I for the last 3 years I've been taking pictures of trash.
Mm.
Okay, and I gave those pictures to Jennifer, the girl. She's not there at the moment, but I gave the pictures to Jennifer because she did a really good job on something before. I said, Jennifer, make up something which describes the variety of trash, and so she's done a collage of all the trash. You see, and you wouldn't believe this stuff. We don't have an old Ford engine. I mean, Brendan gets the prize for that, for pulling that out of the lake. But we do. We have some really unusual trash to show, and that'll be part of the presentation.
It is. I know what you mean, because when I walk my dog on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, because we live right near the 7-Eleven, and it's that whole corner and all that whole area of Main Street and down 18th.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just. It's almost like people are making an effort to throw stuff, because there's like chicken nuggets and hot dog wrappers. Some of them aren't even eaten. That's why I'm saying it feels like they just buy it to throw it on the floor.
Oh, too right. Too right. You join the club. We're all in the same club here. And so these kids are going through this, looking at these issues and looking at things that might be done, and not saying that any one thing is be done, but say, okay, here's some things. Here's how well they think they'll work. Whether it's for speeding, they did. If you reduce the speed limit, it said. And they didn't give that a very high mark because people know the speed limit anyway. But you know what I mean? But so there's something for the town to kind of look at this and say, okay, what things do we really want to do? And then locations for trash bins, and they analyze it. One kid actually went to a convenience store where he lives in Brooklyn, and he bought a hot dog. Oh God, I kid you not, about 4 or 5 different things. Individually, he did this, walked down the street and saw where he thought he would need a litter bin. If they thought that,
Oh, you mean by how long it takes to eat it, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And then the thing is, like with Joe's Surf Shack, they did an analysis. They said, well, there's probably not a lot of litter coming out of there because people go and get their meal and take it
It's
home.
all contained. Yeah, they either take it out or stay in.
Exactly. So that's the kind of stuff that's coming out of this.
Right.
I mean, this could be a really fun project. Because it turn these kids loose at it. And so on. So anyway, and Mayor Higgins in the last meeting said that he liked the kid. He said, "What about a project where the kids do a design for the median on Parkway," which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Jennifer, she's one of the stars. We gave that to her. She said, okay. And I gave her a brief of things that might go into that, and so she's working on that. So.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean,
you said that Parkway puts you out at like the midpoint of where the park would be?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because Mayor Higgins said that some people were saying, well, shouldn't the pathway to the park go all the way down Main Street? I said, well, who wants to walk that far? And what's past 18th Avenue? Not a lot. And it puts you at one end of the park, which gives you the choice of either I'll go to the park or I'll go to Spring Lake.
Right. And most of the town lives inside, not along Main Street. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we're gonna sort of make improvements in the town as a whole, you go right through the middle of the town, and then you go out from there. And that's why, and 18th Avenue is perfect for that. You say we'll do 17th and 16th and Redmond, whatever, but we'll use 18th as the model.
Well, as it is, it's one of the 2 busiest streets.
Yeah.
Right. That and 16th.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's that's the idea. This could be one of the most interesting ones, you know, from a design point of view, you know, and it's quite unusual. And in the sustainable Jersey, I'm going on, I know, but just the sustainable Jersey has an action for complete streets, and it's very close to what we're doing. We're looking at the complete street, not just cars, you know, not, you know what I mean, and all the rest of it. You see, so so there's points in there for the green team, whoever's on it these days. Yeah, so okay, so that's the pathway to the lake. Then looking at this is that drawing I showed you before isn't just a pretty face, right? Okay, it's each of those layers we've added text to them describing the different actions people can do to improve their own yards, to make their yards more environmentally beneficial. Okay, and this is a trifold leaflet. Okay, and on the back of it is the list. There's over 60 things that people can do. Okay, now giving people that list, that is on the way to creating the patchwork for wildlife. All right, and it's basically creating environment and habitat in Lake Como a yard at a time. And if we do 100 yards, front yards, not the whole front yard, like 20 by 20, do 100 of them, we get an acre. We have the equivalent of an acre, which is really something to play for, you know. So then how this is implemented is that we have 3 levels, because you can't look at a checklist of 60 things for every single yard in the town, right? So the simple way to do it is we have an entry level, and we're going to give out certificates where you do one thing and maybe 2. Okay, you have a rain barrel. You don't concrete in your whole driveway. You plant a tree. You see what I mean? You plant, and so on. And then at the other end is you have the distinctive levels where people do a lot of things. Okay, I mean, and these 3 yards right here are tremendous yards because of the long list of things that they do. And to take aesthetics out of the equation, I picked 3, which are one is a formal yard, okay, formal design, but they're not all, but mostly native plants. They grow chickens. They use the chicken manure on the thing. They have a rain garden and blah, 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 blah. All right, down the line, you know. And then there's an informal one, okay, which is another long list of things. And then one which is completely natural. And these people have been written up a couple of times, you know, but if you look at it from an environmental point of view, it's very close to what happens in nature. So but this takes the aesthetics out of it. You're not looking at pretty gardens, you're looking at the environment, okay? So then what's left is the giant middle class. There's a big middle class in Lake Como, okay? And these people who do quite a few things, you know, more than a couple of things. And it's a very wide range, and they get the middle certificate. They're beneficial. Okay. So then oh God, you know what, just a minute. Here's the slide. I didn't delete one of the slides. Here are the certificates, okay? And then this easy to evaluate. I've got 2 or 3 people who are going to help evaluate the yards, and people can actually just about self-certify from this. They look at the yard, you can do it, and we're concentrating on the area of the pathway to the lake, okay, to keep things simple. And there are 260 houses in that area, and these yards are all in that area except 1 or 2. And on Earth Day, Kristen suggested that we roll this out on Earth Day and award the first 15 certificates and then give out the brochures and all the rest. We'll focus on Pathway to the Lake, but anybody else can be evaluated and get a certificate. Just request it, and so we'll send somebody come around and do it. You don't have to be a horticulturist to do this 3-level thing. It's very simple. So that's the Patchwork for Wildlife.
Wow.
And we've got 3 master gardeners besides myself in Lake Como. So we got people who know stuff. So so then to keep track of it, this is the mammoths thing. I don't know if you've seen it on the Lake Como website. This is on the Lake Como website called the online map. And they did this 3 years ago, where everything is, a lot of different things are mapped now. And I'll leave off the other things, but over here on the left are all the property outlines. All right. Now, those property outlines are important for the Patchwork for Wildlife, because this is a mock-up of what we're going to be asking Monmouth to do, is to take the data we collect with the certificates and all that, names and addresses and so on, put that into the GIS, and then display that on the map, so we can keep record of how we're doing, and also use it to encourage other people to get on board. And the entry level is we may change the graphics, but this is what I could think of from the entry level. You have a dot, okay? The beneficial level, it's colored in, and the distinctive level, it gets a distinctive star, okay? So that's what it'll look like, and that can be on the website or wherever. So the last one is the Borough Hall. And I think you're probably pretty familiar with this. I stood in the driveway there with the water coming over my shoes. Not all the way over, but because that red line was a curb preventing the water from going into the 2 areas which would suck up the water. You see, and it goes into the lake. The toxic water goes into the lake and kills the lake. So this year we put in the rain garden. We had 8 volunteers. We got free plants, $300 worth of plants from the NRCS. There was soil conservation, or whatever it is, and we planted them. Brendan dug out a swale, so it collects the water, and all we need to complete it is a shallow berm to go across and divert the water from the driveway into those 2 sides. And we understand it'll be temporary because there's going to be development. But if we get a year or 2 out of it in the meantime, it'll have tremendous educational and publicity value, which is certainly worth it. We'll see if we can find a way to pay for it privately. Because I don't want to spend borrow money on something that isn't going to be there for very long. So that's the last one. And so I don't know if Mary Beth has been on this, but we have 2 social media sites. The one is Instagram, devoted to Candide's Garden, pretty much purely to Candide's Garden. And it's mostly pictures of plants and other things. And if you hit on one of the photographs, you get an explanation of those. And there's over 270 photo posts on it. So, and it's stuff that all through the year, plants all through the years and so on. And then on Facebook, that is for Candide's Garden Plus, and basically the Friends of Candide's Garden, who act as a hub for volunteers. Okay, and I started with Candide's Garden because that was the easiest, and now this year we'll be growing that out to involve volunteers, doing projects and stuff like that. And so it's really Candide's Garden and Friends. And if you think of it like a PTA for the town, okay? And so the resources, there's the government resources, and then there's potential, the people resources, which if we pull that together, there's, things go very, 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 very fast. And my list of people's, there's around 300 now of people in the town, and about something like 80 people, this is about 3 or 4 years ago, who want to volunteer, but I can't get around to them. But if the borough is involved, then we can get around to them a lot more easily. I still have to figure out who's still alive, who's still here, and who's still living. I mean, who's still willing. There's a resource of volunteerism in the town that's going untapped. So that's where I'm posting stuff. And the very first post, that picture there are 5 other pictures that go with it that basically summarize what's going on in the things that we're doing in the town. Okay, so anybody can go on that, and within 5 minutes, they can be briefed on what's happening in the town. It's the very first post. So that's it. Looking at the big picture, we exist on what I call a flyway, a migration path for butterflies, birds, and all sorts of things. They fly up and down the coast, and we got bird watchers in Cape May and also things like that, and Sandy Hook. And so the way we look at that is that you can see the Candide's Garden is the environmental model for Lake Como. Okay, and I wanted to have people do research based on what we find out here, relate to the universities and so on. But then Lake Como is a distinctive identity and an environmental solution for coastal communities, because there's a lot of similar towns up and down this there that they're starting to benefit from it, because I give quite a few talks a year to different towns and so on, both on my own and through the Master Gardener program, the Speakers Bureau. So that's probably a giant thimbleful or whatever nutshell, but now you know everything. There really isn't anything else. Okay.
Yeah.
And we really are so pleased that you're on board, because you fill a gaping hole in pulling these things together, and anything you can do, just keeping people abreast of it, because we've gone beyond the pump priming stage. Now it's happening, and you'll see with the annual report that if you read nothing else, just look at the schedule at the back. Okay, it's now possible to do a schedule leading up to the borough's centennial celebration. So with all these destinations, so that's the thing to play for.